All right, well, welcome everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I declare that we do have quorum. Everyone's here. And I will ask Councillor Schumacher if she would read the land acknowledgement.
I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Robertson-Huron Treaty Number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take action towards real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations.
Thanks very much. Moved by Helena Renwick, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. Councillor Renwick as well, sorry, I didn't say that. Be it resolved that the Planning Council agenda dated February 14, 2024 be hereby adopted as printed and circulated. All in favor? And that's carried. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. All right. I'd like to welcome everyone to the public portion of the meeting to consider applications to amend the Community Planning Permit Bylaw 2022-97 pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act. The procedure of the public meeting will be as follows. A brief explanation of the purpose and effect of the application and any correspondence received to date will be given by staff. The applicant or the representative will be asked to provide any additional comments without repeating the information already outlined by staff. Any members of the public present, in person or electronically, will then be permitted to ask questions or provide comments respecting the applications. Council will then have the opportunity to question the applicant, the planner, or anyone giving presentation. Once the public meeting is concluded, the input received and proposed amendments will be considered by Council. Any persons making representation are requested to first state their name and their mailing address, and please note that presentations are limited to 10 minutes. Please be informed that an appellant must provide an oral submission at the public meeting or a written submission prior to the passage of the CPP bylaw amendment. Otherwise, the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss the appeal. If you wish to be notified of the passage of a bylaw, you must file either with the recording secretary or with the clerk a written request for notification prior to the passage of the proposed bylaw. Each notice of complete application and public meeting included an explanation of the purpose and effect of the proposed amendment, and notice was required to be posted at the subject lands. Notice was therefore considered to have been provided in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act and applicable sections of the the Huntsville Official Plan. And with that, our first application, Kelsey is going to speak to 20 Hemmings Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, the subject property is located at 20 Hemmings Road. The property is within the rural designation of the official plan and within the rural residential precinct with natural constraint 2 overlay. The application has been submitted to change the precinct on the lot from rural residential to urban business employment and conservation. The purpose of the amendment is to permit a self-storage facility and outdoor storage, as well as further delineate the identified wetland and its buffer. So you can see here in this image, the red hatching is where the wetland is, and the red hatched portion is the area to be amended to conservation. The rural residential precinct does not permit self-storage facilities with outdoor storage, therefore an amendment is required to permit these uses. The property is outside the settlement area, but is directly adjacent to the urban boundary and is surrounded by other properties with the UBE precinct. As mentioned, the property is within the rural designation. New rural businesses require an amendment to the bylaw, which will address the appropriateness of the development for a specific location, site circumstances, proposed road access, as well as access to emergency and municipal services. In this instance, the property is off Highway 11 interchange, which provides effective and convenient access to transportation corridor and to the urban area. The use is also in keeping with the surrounding development with light industrial and highway commercial uses nearby. The view from Highway 11 from the proposed development is also buffered by a large stand of trees on the other side of Hemmings Road, which will help mitigate visual impacts from the Highway 11 corridor. Natural constraint mapping identifies steep slope areas and deer wintering habitat on the property. Based on the site visit and the site plan, the development is designed with the topography and steep slopes constraints appear to be mitigated. For deer wintering habitat, the property is in a cleared, buildings will be in a cleared area. However, the property was cleared of trees without the benefit of CPP, which likely resulted in unmitigated impacts to deer wintering habitat. Retention and enhancement of the existing vegetation will be implemented through the community planning permit should this application be approved. As a result of the clearing, staff will require areas on the plans to be maintained and revegetated to a natural state, as illustrated on the plans to offset the impacts through the CPP process. Additionally, outdoor storage and vegetation protection zones will also be required to clearly demarcate on the lands and prevent the migration of outdoor storage into these treed areas. Through the site visit, staff also noted evidence of a wetland on and adjacent to the subject lands. Wetlands may be identified on town mapping or through site inspections. A wetland review was prepared by Riverstone to evaluate and delineate the wetland. It is Riverstone's opinion that the wetland feature was found on the subject property and should be maintained and appropriately buffered. The report identified the wetland and a recommended 15-meter buffer, in addition to other mitigation measures. The measures will be implemented through the community planning permit should the amendment be approved, as well as the wetland and its buffer put into a conservation precinct. A traffic impact brief was also provided to assess the road capacity and transportation impacts. The brief concluded that there would be minor additional traffic generated by the proposed development, which would not adversely affect the capacity of traffic safety or queuing issues on Highway 11 and Lincoln Road. Therefore, the brief suggests that the proposed development would not cause any operational issues. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act and the Community Planning Permit Bylaw. District staff noted that they would not oppose to the approval of the application provided that Town Council is satisfied that the appropriate development control techniques are in place. Fire and building departments also noted that adequate water supply is needed for firefighting. Through staff's review and analysis, the application would appear to conform with the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial policy statement, and therefore staff are recommending approval. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant or representative to make any comments. It's a familiar face.
Well, that's easy. Thank you, Chairman Stone, members. Okay. Okay, we'll get this right.
You've been training you all these years.
Yes, yeah, throw me for a loop. Thanks for having on our application on today. I'm here on behalf of David Hernan, who's sitting up in the back row in Lindgren Mini Storage. As you know, the Lindgren Mini Storage Company has been around in Huntsville for many years and has seen lots of growth and provided lots of facilities for the residents of our community and surrounding areas. As Kelsey had mentioned in the application, this was the only property that was owned rural residential in the Lindgren Industrial Park. Further down the road, we had Sargent and another Lindgren storage. The property directly to the west is the propane tanks, and that was site-specifically zoned industrial up to the boundary of our property. This now has an overlay of the wetland designation on it, and that was the reason we had to retain a biologist to look at it. As you can see, the wetland portion itself is on the southeast corner. It's only a sliver. It's the buffer of 15 meters around it that takes up the majority of that. Dave is proposing his storage units in a number of buildings on the property. And with the pre-consultation of the application, there were a number of items, and one that Dave asked me to relay to council so they understand some of the difficulties. The MTO, I believe, had requested a traffic study based on the use, and the traffic study was, I think, in the neighborhood of $5,000 to $6,000. And I'm just going to pass around one of the details. But the report basically came back and said 2 cars in the morning, day, and 2 cars at night. And that's minor. And I think I gave that some thought. And again, I'm not here just to complain. How could we make that better? I would think that perhaps someone in Public Works can review the file, the proposal, get the traffic count first, and then determine whether a study is appropriate or not. The MTO sent us back a 2-sentence approval in an email after it took us 3 months to get what they wanted for the study out of them. Anyways, I had to raise that for Dave. But all things being said, this property is in conformity with the official plan. It's surrounded by industrial development throughout. There's a significant tree buffer between the Highway 11 southbound lanes and the Hemmings Road, which provides significant buffering. Dave has reviewed the report and did not have any issue with the recommendations in the report. We understand that there will be some enhancement along the wetland, which has a split zone on it. The District of Muskoka had no objection to the application. There was no letters of objection that I'm aware of from any neighbors. I'd be glad to answer any questions should you have any. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much. Members of the public, either present or electronically, anyone present that would like to speak to this application? I see no hands. Anyone electronically needs to raise their electronic hand to let us know.
Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
Thanks very much. Members of council, any comments or questions? Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Chair Stone. I just, to follow up on the last comment that John made with respect to the traffic study, I certainly feel your pain on that. And as you know, we are in discussions with MTO about, because of other properties that were asked for exactly the same thing. And the results that have come back were actually much more than this one. So, or they actually dropped the request. So I want to, it's not great for your applicant, but it's useful for us to hear about this, and certainly the suggestion that maybe our staff could play a role up front in saying, I'm not sure that this is, maybe there's more that we can do while we're in the negotiations that are more longer term. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Chair Stone. And if I may ask, I guess to Kelsey, so when the land was cleared without a community permit, and was it cleared up till or even over top of the wetland area? And that's why the buffer now is asked to be put back in? Like, is it? Okay.
Thank you for the question. Through you, Chair Stone. Yeah, it was cleared around where the buffer is currently. So we've conveyed to the applicant and to the agent that that would be something that we need to look at through the community planning permit, is the renaturalization of that buffer and then replanting and retention of vegetation to assure that all natural constraints are mitigated, like concerns to natural constraints are mitigated.
Great. See no other hands. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that Planning Council approve Community Planning Permit Bylaw Amendment Application, CPPA 12, 2023 HTE. The purpose and effect of which is to change the precinct on the lands from a rural residential precinct to urban business and employment precinct and conservation precinct to permit a self-storage facility with outdoor storage. Comments or questions? All in favor? And that's carried. All right. Kelsey, you're still with us with the Old Muskoka Road application.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, the subject property is located at 1105 Old Muskoka Road. The property is within the rural designation in the official plan, and the property is within the rural and flood zone precincts with flood and natural constraint 1 overlay. The applicant is proposing to amend the precinct for portions of the subject lands from rural to rural residential and rural residential with exception to create 2 new rural residential lots and 1 new rural lot. The proposed exception is to reduce the minimum required frontage on the 1 rural residential lot from 134 meters to 107 meters for the creation of that lot. The purpose and effect of the consent applications is to create the 3 new lots, and I'll list the dimensions, or note the dimensions. So severed lot 1 would have 2 hectares with 149 meters on Old Muskoka Road. That's this lot. And the second lot is the other one that's highlighted, would have 2 hectares and 107 meters on Old Muskoka Road. And the third lot would be down here, and it would be 9 hectares with 333 meters of frontage on Highway 11, and then the retained lot, which is in the middle, would have 2 hectares and 184 meters of frontage on Old Muskoka Road. Oh, sorry, that would have been helpful to have. The rural precinct requires a minimum lot area of 4 hectares and road frontage of 134 meters. As proposed, lots 1 and 2 do not meet these minimum requirements and frontage. An amendment is required from RU to RR precinct. The RR precinct permits lot areas of 2 hectares and 134 meters of frontage. As proposed, several lot 2 does not comply with this requirement. The exception is required. As noted, the rural lot creation standards mimic the official plan standards with 4 hectares for rural and 134 meters. So the lot 3 and the retained lot would be in keeping with the rural lot standards, so that's why they don't need the amendment. As the intended use for the first 2 severed lots is rural residential, that's why that change is required. Severed lot 2 does not meet the minimum required frontage. It should be noted that there is adequate frontage along Old Muskoka Road to support 134 meters of frontage on severed lot 2. The frontage remains deficient despite staff's request to increase the frontage to comply. Small lot frontages are discouraged in new lot creation, as these policies can result in ribbon sprawl and could be unsustainable development patterns. Therefore, the creation of the undersized lot is not supported through the official plan. When looking at the third lot, the frontage is on Highway 11, which is not a point of access. But it adequately meets the official plan standard for frontage, but access for the lot has not yet been confirmed. The lands may have direct access off Allensville Road or off an unopened road allowance leading to Allensville Road. The official plan requires all new development to front on or be accessible from a year-round publicly maintained road, which is a condition, which is in condition appropriate for the proposed use. The official plan also states the location of private roads on public road allowances for provisions of access to individual properties should not be permitted. So we've been in discussions with the operations department, and further information has been requested from the agent and applicant to determine if the entrance is off Allensville or if it's over the unopened road allowance. So therefore, staff are unable to make a recommendation yet for severed lot 3 without this information, and that's the part of the proposal that is just being presented for information. There are wetlands and watercourses identified on the property. Measures must be implemented to protect these features from site alteration, removal of vegetation, and alterations of drainage and development setbacks. The applicant was asked to provide a scoped environmental impact assessment to delineate the wetland and appropriate buffers. As no study was provided, the applicant did, however, provide a development envelope 40 meters back from these features. The proposed severed lots on lot 1 and 3 appear to have a conservative and appropriate setback to these constraints. However, the reduced frontage for proposed lot 2, the lot is more constrained because of the reduced frontage. TransCanada Pipeline does traverse the property. They did provide comments, which are attached in attachment 6. The comments included requirements for abutting development that should be included in an agreement, which is a condition of the consents, of the first consent. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act and the Community Planning Permit. District staff did not have objection to the application, provided that the appropriate development controls are in place to ensure all proposed and future development on the severed and retained lands are located outside of the natural constraints. Based on staff's review, it appears that the amendment CPPA 17, as it relates to the proposed lot 1 only, and consent application B31, would meet the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial policy statement. However, the amendment as it pertains to Lot 2 and consent application B32 appear not to conform to the intent of the official plan or be consistent with the provincial policy statement. As such, we are recommending in relation to Lot 1 only, whereas denials for Lot 2. As further information has been requested for Lot 3, no recommendation has been provided at this time. Should Council consider approving consent application B33, Lot 3, conditions would be needed to be added to address the access. Thank you so much, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Kelsey. I'll go to the applicant or the representative. Oh, and John's back.
Thank you. John P. Gallagher and Associates, here with Gary Bliss, the owner of the property, one of the owners of the property. I think Kelsey has explained the application quite well. I want to go through a couple of the specifics as it relates to this property. Gary approached me after he purchased the property at looking to sever land, and in that regard, we put together a plan with Bob McDermott and did our pre-con meeting. With regards to the northeasterly lot, that would be the lot on the east side of the pipeline on Old Muskoka Road. It exceeds the frontage requirement a fair bit, and that's sort of part of the rationale for the other decreased frontage on the opposite lot on the west side. In that situation, you'll see that we have the creek running down through the west boundary of the property. Although the lots are 2 hectares, they're significantly larger because we weren't allowed to include the flood zones in those lot area calculations. And with the location, Gary mentioned to me that there were a number of 60-meter lots created within the hamlet. And if you maybe pull up on the that air photo, we can see where that lies. So you see these lots over here? They're the 60 meters. This is the hamlet, the historical hamlet of Allensville. And so I think it's not a stretch to say that we are within this settlement, historical settlement. The westerly severed lot will have 107 meters. The other reason is we didn't want to take too much land away from the balance of the property, the retained parcel. The intent is not to farm it because we would have issues with minimum distance separation and creation of lots, and that's why you see a condition in the decision about conversion or change of use permit for the barn, which Gary has no objection to. The location of the, as Kelsey had stated, we're relying on the mapping that was done there. So even though there may be a 30-meter setback from a wetland, we've pushed it to 40 as to what was determined to be through the CPP. Still leaves us lots of room for a building site, but it does push it closer to the driveway and the well on the retained parcel. We would request that those lots, or that lot, have the same conditions as the first one, the easterly one, save and except condition 8, as the pipeline does not run through that property. With regards to the lot that we're proposing on Highway 11, it has a significant lot area of about 9 hectares and over 300 meters frontage on the southbound lanes. Yes, we are not proposing access from the highway. However, this property, in our opinion, does have frontage on a year-round road, and that road is Allensville Road. And as part of that, I'm just going to pass that around. As part of that item, you don't want to read it? Okay, so with the lawyer's letter and the approach that we took there is frontage, direct frontage from that section on the plan. We had our surveyor tie in the adjacent properties to make sure of that. We were then asked to provide an entrance showing that it meets the entrance requirement, which was 3 meters from that property down in this location here. So we had to be 3 meters from that, and we had to provide our driveway at a certain distance. And we more than met that directly driving straight into the property. I'll also note that there is an existing driveway located right across the street from it. And our lawyer, and my opinion too, is, again, I have not heard any rationale as to why we couldn't get an entrance permit. The scenario is this: we have road allowance that Allensville Road was on. It gently veered off that road. I still have X amount of frontage, and we just want to come in there. And so for some reason, we're told that you can't get an entrance, but I can't be told why I can't get the entrance. I'm told I have to close the road allowance, but if I close the road allowance, that would just defeat the purpose, because then Gary wouldn't have any access, because first right of refusal is on the the neighbor has first right of refusal should Gary, or they would be able to buy their side, sorry. So with that lot, again, there is ample area. It is historically in the hamlet. We're trying to utilize an existing part of the frontage. We've got a piece of land that has houses directly to the south of it, and they're a lot smaller lots than what we were proposing for the others. The lands, and I did speak with one of the neighbors across the road. I will say that prior to submission of the application, Gary pre-consulted through the placement of a sign on his property outlining what they were doing. They received 2 phone calls from people who wanted to buy the lots. That was it. And when I spoke with the nice lady across the road, she had no objection. With respect to the zoning, the 2 lots are proposed to be zoned rural residential. The Highway 11 lot could retain its rural designation, provided we get access. And the retained parcel will stay in the rural RU1. The existing mapping that shows the creeks and the wetlands, that will remain as per the CPP. We were trying to narrow it down at the last minute. However, our surveyor is out of the country for a couple of months. And so in that regard, or I guess looking at the policy, is I feel that the application conforms to not only the district policy, but the local policy, because it's in Allensville. And historically, those lots have been created with smaller frontages and area. Everything to the west of it is a number of mobile homes on one lot, multiple severance or septics and wells. The trade-off on the short frontage on the west side pretty much balances out on the east side. The MTO did not have any objection, nor did the district with the application. We would request that committee approve the severances, subject to the reasonable standard conditions that have been outlined. And we would also request deferring the zoning passage until we get our final survey of the property so that we have an accurate survey. I'd be glad to answer any questions should you have any. I know Gary's eager to move forward on it, and he's here as well should you have any questions. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much. I'll go to members of the public. Anyone present that wishes to speak to this application? I see none. Anyone electronically that would like to speak to this?
Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
Thank you very much. Council members, Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chair Stone, and thanks, John. You brought up an interesting point about Allensville being a community area, and I don't know, and I have a question for either one of our planners or who's ever here. I know Port City and Hidden Valley have a special designation. Did we not include Allensville with a special designation? I'm not familiar with it, so. maybe I
Director
can recall
Maxwell?
it.
Thank you, Chair Stone. Am I working? Okay, good. Sorry. The Allensville has never been a community or a hamlet in an official plan designation since previously to 96. I don't know if it was before that.
Yes, it was
Previous to 96. So, yeah.
Okay. That was question number one. Can I follow up? I couldn't agree more that the lots in the area are definitely of smaller frontage and smaller size. To the south, there's, I don't know, 10 that are land lease lots. And I think that one of the questions was about access on the road allowance. So does the applicant want to purchase the road allowance, or does he want to just use the road allowance?
If I could, if you have a look at that survey. Because we had, we had a blow up, if you can zoom it up a bit there, Kelsey. We could zoom into that area.
No, enough that.
Okay, hold on a sec. I thought the one with the letter that, oh, like this. Maybe I'll pass this around, or I'll point to it first.
We have it on our package that we can enlarge here on
Okay,
our
so-
screens. So
So this is the adjacent lot to the south. This point here is the few mobile homes that are to the west of along Allensville. So you see what happens is you've got the road allowance north and south, and it gently veers because this was sort of ditched down in here, and it, again, do ditches form part of a road allowance? And so we created an entrance right across from another entrance.
she's
in
got
this-
it up now.
Here,
Oh, there we go.
Kelsey's got it here.
Perfect, thanks, Kels. So if you can see on that drawing, they've shown the setback adjacent part 1, 411, They show where the Allensville Road goes. And with the access, we wouldn't be crossing anyone else to get out, nor would we be crossing in front of anyone else. And so that's why I'm sort of, shaking my head on the entrance permit, because, I know personally, on my house on Wasiosa, I had to cross a road allowance after I came off the road because it veered for a rock when they built the road. But I was never required to, or I was never told I couldn't get an entrance for it. And when you have two road allowances that are that close, in my opinion, the purpose is to gain access to your property. That's why they were created when they did the original land grants in this province.
Thanks for that,
Councillor Fitzgerald, go ahead.
So to follow up, you just want to use the road allowance. You don't want to purchase the road allowance.
We just want to get an entrance permit and cross the road allowance just like the neighbor does, because the pavement of the surface of the road is only 23 feet wide sitting within that allowance. So you are crossing the road allowance to get to your property, and every property is.
So did operations, you never heard back from operations, Kelsey?
Kelsey?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, we had several discussions with operations and clerks as it pertains to road allowances. And we were just waiting for further information because there's a discrepancy of where the road meets the property, or if it's just the road allowance. And if it was just the road allowance, there might need to be extra stages, extra steps in place, and then also relief through the CPP because it doesn't have direct access onto a year-round maintained road maintained by a public authority. So that's why we were holding back on giving a decision, because we don't have that information as of yet.
Can I see that?
Go ahead.
You can go after me, John.
Yeah.
So we don't know where our road allowance is. Right? Is that what I'm to understand? Because we have to wait for the survey, the applicant's survey, to come in to tell us where our road allowance is.
I'll go
Well-
to Director Schumacher. Sorry, sorry, you've been elevated. Yeah. Yes, sir. Director Maxwell.
Thank you, Chair Stone. I think the issue is that with the air photos that we have and where the lot lines appear to be, we know they're not survey accurate, so that's why we need confirmation as to where it is, because the plan that Mr. Gallagher has provided is significantly different from what we show. And that's where that discrepancy is, so that's why we need more time to find out exactly what's going on.
Can I,
Sure, go ahead, John.
can you pull that up for a second, Tracy? Just
And John, if I'm correct, you're asking for deferral until you can get it surveyed properly. Is that correct?
ask for a deferral for the zoning portion of it only. I mean, if this is an issue, obviously we can do some more survey work, but if we could bring it up on the map, I just want to point to the fact that when Bob McDermott did this plan up, it is survey accurate. So where you see this point here, that is this property. And this piece here, in relation to the northwest corner of this, is to scale. So the question becomes one of, here's the way Allensville Road comes. It comes up like this, and it goes like this. It doesn't go like this. And so the municipality has ownership of this and this. So I guess we could say that, well, the line should be here, but it's just as easy as say the line could be here. But do I have access? Do I have frontage? Yes, I do.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
I agree that we should defer and wait for the survey. For all intents and purposes, in my opinion, it seems that it's a road allowance that we can allow the applicant to use. It's old concessions. They're chained. They were straight. Just because the road went this way because of the geography doesn't change where that road allowance is. As for the frontage on the lot that we are discussing that we don't want to approve from planning view. The lots in the area are so small that it's still bigger than those lots that are in the area. So I think it conforms with what's in the area. It's not out of line. And if we can fit services and a house on a lot with the proper setbacks, then we've created another place for someone to live in our community. So I'm all for approval of the lots and deferral on survey.
All right, before I ask if there's a motion to amend, I'm going to go to the rest of council. Do you have any comments? Councillor Cloutier?
Through you, Chair. John, on the proposed severance 2 of the 3.3 acres, that's showing the building envelope and the setback from the wetland, okay, the 40-meter setback. What is the the frontage on the building envelope? Do you have a measure? I don't see a measurement here. Like it's 107.2 across the whole thing. I just like
it's about 40 to 50 meters.
40 to 50 meters. Okay, all right. And with that building envelope, you feel there's room for septic well building?
Area there. Yes.
Okay, all right. That's it. Thank you.
Councillor Schumacher?
Thank you, through you, Chair Stone. Yeah, I'm in agreement. If the applicant wants to do the deferral, I'm fine with the zoning deferral. The rest of it, I agree with the lot sizes for that area, that particular area. And I mean, again, we're trying to create opportunities for homes, and I don't find that people in those areas are building McMansions. They want a home that they can live in on a piece of property that is ideal and idyllic in that community. So I'm totally okay with that. And I do agree with the ability to access from Allensville. That road allowance is actually, if Domtar Road were to have continued straight, that is what that road allowance was originally set up for. Domtar Road is not going to continue to go straight. We have all those curves and the three-way stop that we've created. We're not using that. It goes right behind the trailer park component there too. We're not going to be using that. So to them to have that little end there, even if it does, that was the original intent of that road allowance, was if Domtar Road was to go straight through and connect to Allensville. It's not going to. So let's let them have access.
Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Chair Stone. I have no issue with approving Lot 1 and 2. I'm just wondering if conditionally approving Lot 3 might be a better option, because that way part of the condition could still be that the survey be completed and could satisfy the town and John's clients. Otherwise, if we defer it, it's going to have to come back here again, which is going to be a lot longer process, I think, for your client. I'm just wondering if a conditional approval might be a better option here than an actual deferral.
On that point, can I ask Director Maxwell if that seems appropriate?
Thank you, Chair Stone. I might ask Ms. Shadlock if she can confirm that we would do the amendment to the CPP bylaw that would recognize that that lot has zero frontage at that point, because it wouldn't be considered a building lot as a lot unless it goes through a CPP amendment as well, because it doesn't have enough frontage, but does it have any frontage is the question. So.
Thank
Kelsey?
you. Yeah, so this one's complicated. It's basically, if it turns out that it has access and frontage on Allensville Road, it doesn't need any additional relief. So it doesn't require the amendment like the other ones to rural residential. And then Director Maxwell can approve it through delegated authority. However, the issue comes up if it doesn't have access, and we put in a condition, then it might have to come back forward for a Class 3 CPP or amendment. So there's a couple different avenues that council could take in terms of conditional approval. Either if the entrance is fine, it goes through delegated approval, or it turns out through the survey that it's not fine and they have to come back for a Class 3. So,
Mayor Alcock?
Thank you, Chair Stone. And it's been really interesting hearing all of the viewpoints, and I certainly concur with Councillor Clark's suggestion. And I understand, Kelsey, what you're saying. It's not straightforward, it's complicated. But what I think I'm hearing around the table, that in principle, we're supportive of the application. And certainly from the councillors who are really familiar with the area, I think that's really compelling, actually, and the proximity to the old village of Allensville and that all of those arguments are compelling. And then I also put the layover of the district's tacit approval of the entire application from their regional planning lens and development in the rural area, whatever lens they're using. But it nevertheless is on file that they support the application. So what I'm hearing is that there is support for the application. What your job is, it's far more complicated than ours, is trying to figure out how we make it happen and what those conditions are and how, whether it becomes delegated authority or it needs to another application. So I think basically what I'm saying, I support the intent of what Councillor Clark is saying, that we approve the application as presented, but it's conditional on, and that's the harder part.
All right. So yes, so if we need to get there, I'll entertain a motion to amend, and what might that look like? Councillor Fitzgerald.
It sounds like, to make everybody happy and vote in favor, that we need to defer the rezoning, approve all lots other than the building envelope, the Severance 3. And that would be conditional upon survey.
All right, Kelsey?
So to clarify, so there's an amendment on the table and the recommendation is that we approve half and deny half. So the recommendation would be to approve the amendment? Or
To change deny to approve?
deny, yeah, yes,
Or
that's what I mean.
Or conditionally approve?
Yeah.
All right,
The
Director
deferral-
Maxwell?
There's the CPP bylaw amendment that would apply to severed lots 1 and 2, that they would, and then the condition approving the consents. So, yeah, that's where the complication
Sorry, the
comes
amendment
up.
has nothing to do with the severed lot 3. It's only for the first 2 lots that it. Yes.
This is a little
so
confusing.
sorry.
Do we want to take a
staff need
break?
time to craft something?
It's just more clarifying that severed lot 3 doesn't need a zoning amendment. It just needs access clarified. So that's the consent approval is sort of a separate discussion for that one, whereas lots 1 and 2 that have frontage on Old Muskoka Road need the zoning amendment in order to be able to be approved.
Go ahead, John.
So if that were the situation, if there was a clause in the decision for the south severed lot, that the owner provide a survey to identify that the lot has frontage or something in that regard, then it would be protected like Councillor Clark has stated.
All right, I'm going to call a break for 5 minutes so staff can get the wording correct. All right? 5 minutes. We good? All right. So lots of reading here. Settle in. Original motion, moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. Be it resolved that Planning Council approve a portion of Community Planning Permit Bylaw Amendment CPPA 17/2023 HDE, the purpose and effect of which is to change the precinct on the lands from a rural 1 precinct to a rural residential precinct to permit the creation of 1 new residential lot. And further, that the Planning Council deny a portion of the Community Planning Permit Bylaw Amendment CPPA 17/2023 HDE, purpose and effect of which is to change the precinct on the lands from rural precinct to rural residential, with exception precinct to reduce the minimum required frontage from 134 meters to 107 meters for the creation of 1 new rural residential lot. Now, that was the original motion. Moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that the following word be deleted, deny, and the following word be inserted in its place, approve. Comments or questions? All in favor? And that amendment carries. And I will ask the main motion as amended. All in favor? And that's carried. And there's more. We don't have movers and seconders? Okay. Moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that Planning Council deny consent application B32/2023 HTE for the creation of 1 new residential lot. That was the original motion. The amendment is moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that the following word be deleted, deny, and the following words be inserted in its place, provisionally approve. And further, that the following conditions be added. 1, Community Planning Permit Bylaw Amendment CPPA 17/2023 HTE be approved and in force and effect. A registerable description of the severed lots being submitted to the town along with a registered copy of the reference plan. The owner's taxes being in good standing. A site inspection fee of $265 being paid to the town of Huntsville. A consent finalization fee in the amount of $208 being paid to the town of Huntsville. 5% cash in lieu of parkland being paid to the towns of Huntsville on the severed lands. A change of use in permit being issued for the barn on the residential lands, and the owners entering into an agreement with the town to be registered on title to the lands to implement development conditions as outlined in TCPL comments dated February 7th, 2024. Comments or questions on the amendment? All in favor? And that's carried. And all in favor of the main motion as amended? And that's carried. And it keeps on coming. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Mayor Alcock. Be it resolved that Planning Council provisionally approve consent application B33/2023 HTE for the creation of 1 new rural residential lot, conditional on a registerable description of the severed lots being submitted to the town along with a registered copy of the reference plan, the owner's taxes being in good standing, a site inspection fee of $265 being paid to the town of Huntsville, consent finalization fee in the amount of $208 being paid to the town of Huntsville, 5% cash in lieu of parkland being paid to the town of Huntsville on the severed lands, a change of use in permit being issued for the barn on the retained lands, the owners entering into an agreement with the town to be registered on title to the lands to implement development conditions as outlined in TCPL comments dated February 7th, 2024, and finally, the applicant to address access for the lot to the satisfaction of the town. Comments? Councillor Fitzgerald?
A fantastic job, Chair Stone. Thank you.
All in favor? And that's carried. Whew.
I think Patricia gets the kudos on that.
Okay. All right. Now that all comments have been received, I declare these public meetings respecting the above applications to be concluded. We will now move to the non-public portion of the meeting. And with that, Kelsey is going to speak to the Mardlin application.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, the subject property is located at 25 Lawrence Street South. The property is within the urban residential designation within the official plan and within the urban residential low precinct, as you can see here. An application has been submitted to permit the construction of a 33 square meter, one-story detached garage. The Class 3 council variation is required to reduce the exterior side yard setback from 3 meters to 1.5 meters and reduce the rear yard setback from 3 meters to 1 meter, all to permit the construction of the garage. Here's the garage here, and here's where the two reliefs are needed. It's kind of a corner lot, so the two lot lines, the front and the exterior, the one against Lawrence Street was slightly marginally smaller, so that's why those are the yard requirements. The UR1 precinct permits low-density residential units, including a single detached dwelling. The application to permit the garage is to replace an existing one-story detached garage. The existing detached garage has an exterior side yard setback currently of 2.49 meters, which is not compliant with the 3-meter setback. So redevelopment of a larger garage would create further non-compliance. So here you can see the garage in the image on the right. The exterior side yard setback requirements are to mitigate visual, traffic, and safety impacts. The rear yard setbacks are to ensure adequate spacing between development on abutting lots, allow access and drainage, and create a buffer between properties. The proposed garage is positioned to utilize the existing clearing, as you could see here where the existing garage is, and enlarge the footprint to increase functionality of this building on the property. The existing and proposed garage are on a high point of the property, and the siting is based on the topography. Given the existing garage is similarly located, the reduction in exterior and rear yard setbacks would be considered appropriate. Being a corner lot, as mentioned, the development is oriented towards Lawrence Street South, as it's a marginally shorter lot line. As the dwelling is already set back from Lawrence Street South, the rear yard is restrained because of the placement of the dwelling. So the garage can't be pushed further towards the northeast corner because the area is already leveled where the garage is currently. The existing garage is highly visible from Duncan Street. Despite development being closer to the street, the proposed garage will have unlikely further visual impacts and will improve the appearance of the development from the street. Surrounding development is also typically oriented closer to the street in this older area of Huntsville, so it will also echo surrounding development and be consistent with the surrounding character. The application was circulated in accordance to the community planning permit bylaw, and the district had no concerns. No further comments or objections were received. Further to staff's review and analysis, the application would appear to conform to the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial policy statement, and therefore staff are recommending approval. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant or representative to make any comments about the application. I'm not seeing. Perfect. Thank you for that. I'll go to council. Any comments or questions? I'm seeing none. Moved by Councillor Cloutier, seconded by Mayor Alcock. Be it resolved that Planning Council approve Community Planning Permit Application CPP 137 2023 HDE, the purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from Section 4.2.4 of the Community Planning Permit Bylaw 2022-97 as amended. 2, reduce the exterior side yard setback from 3 meters to 1.5 meters and reduce the rear yard setbacks from 3 meters to 1 meters, all to permit the construction of a 33 square meter, one-story detached garage. And further, that a Class 3 community planning permit be issued to authorize the described development conditional on development being carried out in accordance with the community planning permit, including plans and drawings, all exterior lighting being dark sky compliant in accordance with the Town of Huntsville Outdoor Lighting Bylaw 2016-3 as amended, and all disturbed areas being stabilized and restored to existing conditions or better immediately upon completion of the works. Comments or questions? All in favor? And that's carried. All right. All right, Madeline's here to talk about the South Wasiosa Lake Road application.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, the subject property is located at 691 South Wasiosa Lake Road. The lot is designated rural in Huntsville's official plan and is under the rural precinct with the natural constraints 2 overlay in the community planning permit bylaw. An application has been made for a Class 3 community planning permit to permit a 219 square meter expansion to an existing legal non-complying single detached dwelling that is 0.9 meters higher than the height of the original structure, and to permit a reduction in the north interior side yard setback from 7 meters to 2.5 meters for a 3 square meter covered entry addition. And all is required to facilitate the overall proposal. So the existing one-story dwelling has a footprint of approximately 117 square meters and a height of 3.7 meters. And the proposed addition includes an overall increase in 222 square meters in footprint area. Expansions to non-complying structures are permitted as long as they do not exceed the height of the existing structure. In this instance, the 0.9 meter increase will allow a more comfortable interior space, and the proposed 4.5 meter height is well within the permitted height requirement for the rural precinct. The addition has also been designed in a suitable manner to match the existing dwelling. The existing covered entry has a non-complying setback of 2.59 meters, and the proposed covered entry will have a side yard setback of 2.54 meters. There is a marginal reduction in the side yard setback compared to the existing condition. The applicants are also proposing to renaturalize an area along the north property line to enhance a buffer between the neighboring property, and they're also proposing to remove 3 existing accessory structures. Overall, the proposed additions will enhance and contribute to the functionality of the existing dwelling and are appropriately placed on the lot given the level ground and cleared area. The use of the subject lands for the additions to the existing single detached dwelling are in keeping with the contemplated policies of the rural designation and the town's official plan. And natural constraint mapping has identified sloping and a stream on the property. The proposed development is located well outside of natural heritage features and maintains a significant setback to ensure no disturbances are created. So just to point out on the slides here, the proposed additions are shown in blue, and the existing dwelling is shown just outlined. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Community Planning Permit Bylaw. District of Muskoka staff noted no objection to the application, and 2 letters of support were received by neighboring property owners and included in the agenda package. Through staff's review and analysis, the application would appear to meet the applicable criteria for approval under the Community Planning Permit Bylaw and be consistent with the provincial policy statement. As such, staff are recommending approval, and thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant to make any comments, if they wish. Good afternoon.
Hi there, my name's Chelsea. I'm the applicant. I'm speaking on behalf of the owners who are here with me today. I just wanted to go over 2 brief items. The reason for the increase in height is the existing building has 7'4" existing ceiling height. The owners are looking to have this increase in height to have 9-foot ceilings, which is more consistent with modern construction. For the side yard setback reduction, it is marginal, and one of the letters of support that was included is that neighbor that shares that side yard setback. Madeline's done a good job of explaining everything else. We're here to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Perfect. Short and sweet. I love it. All right, council members, any comments or questions? Seeing none. Moved by Mayor Alcock, seconded by Councillor Cloutier. Be it resolved that Planning Council approve Community Planning Permit Application CPP 01-2024 HTE, the purpose and effect of which is to provide relief from sections 2.16.3 and 4.8.4 of the Community Planning Permit Bylaw 2022-97 as amended to permit a 219 square meter expansion to an existing legal non-complying single detached dwelling 0.9 meters higher than the height of the original structure, and reduce the northern interior side yard setback from 7 meters to 2.5 meters for a 3 square meter covered entry addition, all to permit the construction of a 219 square meter dwelling addition and 3 square meter covered entry addition to the existing single detached dwelling on the lot. And further, that community planning permit be issued to authorize the above described development conditional on the development being carried out in compliance with the community planning permit, including final plans and drawings prepared to the satisfaction of the town of Huntsville, all exterior lighting being dark sky compliant and in accordance with the town of Huntsville outdoor lighting bylaw 2016-3 as amended, appropriate erosion and sediment control measures being installed prior to commencement of any works and maintained until all disturbed areas have been stabilized, and all disturbed areas being stabilized and restored to existing conditions or better immediately upon completion of the works. Comments or questions? All in favor? And that's carried. All right. And finally, the Main Street application.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, the subject property is located at 93 Main Street East. The lot is designated Central Business District along the intensification corridor within Huntsville's urban settlement area in Huntsville's official plan and is under the Central Business District precinct with the natural constraints to overlay in the community planning permit bylaw. An application has been made to facilitate the construction of a 200 square meter addition to the existing structure on the lot for a restaurant and dwelling unit. The addition consists of a 70 square meter tunnel and 130 square meter attached garage. The tunnel is proposed to have a green roof, which will also cover portions of the garage, and the tunnel also consists of a 14 square meter stairway addition, which will be above grade. The stairway addition will provide direct access from the garage to the second story dwelling unit and rooftop patio only. The Class 3 community planning permit is required to permit an expansion to the footprint of an existing legal non-complying structure and reduce the number of required loading spaces from 1 to 0. The community planning permit would be conditional on parking cash in lieu in the amount of $37,500 being paid to the town of Huntsville, any affected portions of the town road allowance being stopped up, closed, and conveyed to the owners and merged with the subject property, a license of occupation being obtained from the District of Muskoka for any affected portions of the district road allowance, a site plan and elevation drawings being revised to the satisfaction of the town to include a privacy fence on the retaining wall running along the rear property line for safety, privacy, and noise mitigation purposes, and a grading plan being submitted to the satisfaction of the town. Additionally, through further discussions and comments received after the posting of the agenda, staff are also recommending the following conditions in red be added, and these state that the owner enter into a development agreement with the town to be registered on title of the lands, including provisions of financial securities to confirm that development will occur in accordance with the community planning permit and the final approved plans and drawings, and that the applicant address the building encroachments on town-owned lands to the satisfaction of the town. Should council support the additional conditions, an amendment to the resolution is required and has already been prepared. So a little bit of history. On November 17th, 2023, a Class 1 community planning permit was issued for the site alteration on the lands. The permit allowed for preparatory site alteration and grading to commence on the portions of the privately owned property outside of the town-owned road allowance. Following this, on November 29th, 2023, Council approved an original road allowance closure application to permit the owners to purchase a 232 square meter portion of River Street in front of the lands to facilitate the proposed development. The owners have also been in contact with the District of Muskoka to obtain a license of occupation to facilitate this development as the patio extends within their road allowance along Main Street East. The property is currently developed with a legal non-complying 2-story mixed-use building known as Cafe Wilgris, which is believed to have been constructed in 1897. The existing building is approximately 125 square meters and has a height of 8 meters. The existing structure has an encroachment over the northwest property line, which is the reason for the non-compliance. It should also be noted that the existing structure on the subject property is not a designated heritage property on the Town of Huntsville's Heritage Register. However, the historic and cultural significance is recognized and of interest to the town. The main floor of the building has served several commercial uses throughout the year, operating as a bookstore and cafe most recently, and the second story of the building contains a dwelling unit. Additionally, the proposal does not intend to change the facade of the existing building, and the proposed additions have been designed in such a way to enhance the existing character and provide a cohesive look. The proposed additions include an overall increase of 200 square meters in footprint area to the existing structure. The garage entrance will be visible from both Main Street and River Street. However, majority of the addition will be covered by a green roof element, except for the 14 square meter stairway addition. The stairway addition will not exceed the height of the existing structure and is being proposed to include privacy screening. Due to the property having frontage on Main Street, setbacks to the property lines are not required. The central portion of the subject lands are to be utilized as a landscape patio for the restaurant. The proposed additions are appropriately placed on the lot, giving the sloping topography and road configuration surrounding the site. The proposal includes an accessible ramp to the patio for the restaurant portion and provides an inviting space off of Main Street that contributes to the functionality and character of the downtown area. The garage, tunnel, and stairway addition allow the residential use to be separately contained from the restaurant use on the site, and parking on the site has been contained strictly within the garage and has been proposed to only service the residential dwelling unit. No parking or loading spaces are being proposed for the restaurant use, and in this instance, due to the location of the site, parking can be accommodated throughout the downtown area in various public parking lots or on-street parking where appropriate. In regards to loading spaces, there is none proposed for this site. One loading space would be required for dropping off shipments to the restaurant. The frequency of the shipments is not yet determined, and the owners propose to take a similar approach to neighboring businesses by utilizing on-street parking and laneways for any loading space needs. Cash in lieu of parking is being taken off the difference in parking based on the previous and proposed occupancy levels. In this instance, previous occupancy was limited to 30 individuals. The proposal includes increasing this to 47. 5 parking spaces are needed to accommodate the increase in occupancy, and a condition has been added to include that cash in lieu at $7,500 per parking space will be taken to address this accordingly. The fee collected will be put into a reserve until such time that the town is able to provide parking in an alternate location. The subject lands are included in the Central Business District, which permits a full range of retail, personal service, service commercial, entertainment, and multiple residential uses that don't follow a homogeneous character. The restoration and rehabilitation of buildings shall be designed to enhance the pedestrian-oriented streetscape and be compatible with uses and structures permitted within the respective commercial designation. Where commercial use abuts a residential, open space, or institutional designation, landscape buffers and screening will be provided where appropriate in an effective and aesthetically pleasing manner. In this instance, the existing 2-story building is oriented towards Main Street East, and a patio space for the restaurant has been reconfigured to provide pedestrian access. The red brick exterior and architecture of the existing building allow it to serve as a prominent structure as individuals pass over the bridge and enter into Huntsville's downtown area. The building is mixed use in character and provides a functional location for both a restaurant and residential dwelling unit. To the south of the subject lands is an institutional use. Landscaping is being proposed within the subject property to provide screening from the patio for the abutting property, and a green roof is also being incorporated to limit the visual impact of the proposed tunnel and garage additions. Along the rear property line, a privacy fence has been included as a required condition to address noise, privacy, and safety. Natural constraint mapping identifies steep slopes on the property, which were determined not to be a constraint to development in this instance. Additionally, it should be noted that in May 2023, Council passed a motion which directed staff to investigate the possible conversion of River Street into a closed park. This motion was supported by the Waterfront Strategy Design Brief, which is a reference to guide detailed planning and design along Huntsville's waterfront. The brief discusses further connectivity of parks within the downtown core, and in support of this goal, River Street has been identified as being part of the proposed downtown parks and trail expansion. In regards to the development proposal for the subject property, the proposed garage is facing River Street and is being located in the same area as the previous driveway and parking area. It should be noted that the investigations to review the possible closure of River Street are still outstanding, and when completed would require to consider existing access to private lands amongst other things. The proposed development appears not to fetter or hinder future investigations from proceeding. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Community Planning Permit Bylaw. One letter of concern was received in regards to the application and included in the agenda package. Additional concerns were received and circulated to Council prior to our meeting today. Conditions have been added to address the concerns that were received. The Operations Department is requesting that the applicant submit a grading plan to illustrate final finished grades and that no negative impacts to adjacent and neighboring properties are to occur. And additionally, their comments note that due to the proposed entrance being within the limits of the pre-existing driveway, an entrance permit will not be required. The Building Department also noted that a permit for interior works to the existing structure have been submitted, and the application was circulated to the Accessibility Committee, and the applicant will be required to address these comments as appropriate on final plans and drawings. District staff noted no objection to the application, and through staff's review and analysis, the application would appear to meet the applicable criteria for approval under the Community Planning Permit Bylaw and be consistent with the provincial policy statement. And as such, staff are recommending provisional approval of the application. Thank you for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. We'll call on the applicant or representative to make any comments. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Chair Stone and Council. Happy Valentine's Day. My name is Jay Burbaker. I am the agent for the owner who's behind me. Do you need my address? 365 Highway 60, Huntsville, P0B1L0. I'm here to answer questions if there are any.
All right, perfect. I'll go to council. Any comments or questions? Mayor Alcock first.
Thank you, Chair Stone, and thank you for the presentation. Madeline, that was great, and thank you for being here. I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway, and that is, I know it was very clear in the report that the facade is not changing of well, it's a heritage building. I know it's not designated, but it's on the of interest list. And so I was looking at the rendering, and the color looks different, and I'm assuming that's just because the rendering has a different color palette or something like that.
Yes, that's correct. We're going to match the existing siding color exactly. The rendering, I think it was generated in Ukraine or somewhere where all of these tech people operate. So
Right, okay.
it'll match and be consistent. And we're going to upgrade the windows in the brick portion of the building, but they're going to match the exact shape of the historical ones. They'll just be more energy efficient. So it will look the same.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great, because, and as I said, I know it hasn't been designated, but it certainly is on the
Yeah.
list. And we've, anyway, that's fantastic, thank you. I do have another question, but
Go
it's
ahead.
different, so I can wait if you want.
All right, then you wait.
All right, I'll wait, okay.
Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Chair Stone, and thank you, Madeline, for the report. I have a couple of concerns. My first question or my first comment would be the six parking spaces, or sorry, the 5, so in lieu of parking. We're creating another a bit of business downtown, and we don't have the space for parking. And I understand that we're going to get this in lieu of parking. There's no area in that section where we can actually have deliveries. Like, where will the delivery trucks go when should they arrive for the restaurant? There's no area there for them to park, is there, without blocking River Street?
Right. Could you bring up the site plan? So in front of the proposed garage, where the sidewalk, and there is that strip of driveway, the deliveries to these restaurants is quite brief, like it happens quickly. And so part of the garage's purpose, there is a service corridor through the garage that accesses the back of the restaurant. And so it's possible that the delivery could happen right and be blocking that sidewalk for a brief period of time. It's either that or it happens on the street, like was mentioned, and yep.
Go ahead.
So not ideal, but it is location to have deliveries made.
Yeah,
in that
and
section.
it's consistent with a lot of the businesses downtown, and
Right,
yeah.
yeah. If I may,
Yep.
the other concern, and this is just through, well, not just through, but through neighbors, the schedule that you've got proposed to finish off the not the blasting, but the drilling, it's gone over time. It's gone way over schedule, has it not?
Yeah.
It has caused such duress to the neighbors. And do you have a drop dead date to say this will be finished? Because it's been unbearable for the neighbors to deal with it. And I know there is an end in sight,
Yep.
but it would be really great if you could say this date it's going to be done.
It's a challenging question. It was supposed to be done about a month ago, and the rock's been a lot harder than, and this, in communication with the church early on in the process, they actually asked that we not blast. They made it very clear that if we were to blast, there would be legal repercussions on us. And so we proposed, if we're not going to blast, then drilling and chipping is the next best option. And they said that was fine. And I understand if, it's annoying being on site and listening to it, and I feel for the people who live in the area. My understanding is that it is done in the next couple of days, and we're down to full depth, and they're just removing a few pieces of stone. So we're very close, and our apologies. We feel bad. It's taken a long time, and I'm glad it's going to be over as well.
Okay. Mayor Alcock, you had some more.
Just one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Stone. So, Madeline, you addressed it. So I just want to confirm, I know you addressed it, it's the access to the garage, which is on an existing site, so that's on us. I'm just curious, as we look to the future, if we do consider closing off River Street to form part of our waterfront, was the plan in your mind accessing the garage not from Main, but from Princess down through along River from Princess? Is that, or how would that garage, and this is just for my own edification, because that would have an impact on what the closure of the River Street looks like. And I know you kind of dealt with that, Madeline, but you said we need to consider access of private properties, and so this is one of the only private properties, so I'm sort of curious what that consideration looks like.
Yeah, so through looking at it and just in looking at our mapping, doing kind of a desktop overview, there's actually 3 properties that have
Oh.
access on River Street.
But they have
but in-
access from Princess as well, I think.
I believe they're between Princess and High Street,
Yeah.
or I guess it's the other way around.
Okay.
But in regards to this application, right now the access goes from Princess to the driveway, just because River Street's only a one-way.
Right.
And would assume whenever this investigation is completed, would have to look at, the
that-
feasibility of them accessing off of Main Street. But just in terms of what we're looking at right now, that investigation would have had to do that regardless of this driveway, this garage being proposed here or not, because that access was already existing.
Right. Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chair Stone. I just had a question about the letter from Mr. Ed Wilms regarding the easement for sewer through the property. So he has a sanitary line easement through your property. Have you guys addressed that with him, or planned for a fail date or put in backup?
Yeah, that's correct. The sewer for the church house that's up on top of the hill, the easement's been in place for a long time, but the sewer line cut directly across the 93 property and was a few feet under grade and was fine as long as it was in its previous use. So we, as the excavation has taken place, we have rerouted the sewer line to some of it's in the easement now, some of it's very close to the easement based on vegetation and just based on site conditions. As the garage foundation goes in and the tunnel is completed and we backfill, our intent is to, as much as we are able based on bedrock and everything else, push the sewer line fully into the easement and make sure that it's there for the long haul. We've also talked about the clean outs and making sure that it's long-term serviceable and done properly. That's our intent.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Chair Stone. Just a couple of questions. So what is the total height of the garage? It might have been addressed in the report, but I just wanted to clarify it. And I guess the second part to the question is, are the drawings and renderings that we've seen, are those to scale? Just wanting to make sure that the view is not going to be impeded by the home behind, the church home that you referenced.
Right. So the total height of the garage from sidewalk grade up to roof of garage is 16 feet. And what that means is that puts the top of the garage 10 feet above the main floor of the Wheelgrass building, because the sidewalk level is 6 feet below the main floor of the Wheelgrass building. So it basically, the top of the garage is 10 feet higher than main floor of the Wheelgrass building. So as far as it, blocking views from the upper bank where the house sits, I believe that it might block part of the street, current River Street, but I don't think it's going to block anything beyond that.
Follow up?
Yeah, just a quick follow-up, different question, but the letter that Mr. Wilms provided about the concerns to do with the trees that have been with root damage, is that going to be addressed by you guys with removal, or how's that going to be dealt with?
Yeah, so Madeline brought that up to me yesterday. We were talking back and forth about that, and then I went over to the site and had a look at it first thing this morning. And if I guess if the trees are dead, if they die, we'll have a professional arborist take them down in a professional manner, which means they will drop them, within a very small radius around the tree and not do damage to anything in the area. And then we were talking about suitable replacements for the trees. Madeline was saying, it's about putting the proper things back in that place. I don't know what your wording was.
So just in regards to the vegetation, sorry, through you, Mr. Chair, essentially, those trees, as we all know, they can't be replaced like for like if they do need to be replaced. It's unfortunate, but that's the situation. The other thing to also consider, if the sanitary sewer is going within that easement, putting vegetation there that can complement that servicing is also something that has to be considered. So something where the root system isn't going to damage that as well. And I think, the people working on the church property are more than willing to work with the applicants on finding a suitable solution and putting something back that, will buffer with vegetation. That's the expectation because that's what's being shown on the drawings. And also that's the other reason for that development agreement being in place. So, we do have some control over the landscaping as well.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I hope
Council-
that answered the question.
Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you through you, Chair Stone, and Corey kind of took my question. I had a comment and a question. The comment, I was happy to hear Councillor Renwick ask you about the, and the chipping away that, as I've heard from residents in the area and business owners who the staff are there all day, the chip is quite annoying, and they're hoping that it'll be done soon and that maybe you have a customer appreciation day for those that have been affected by the constant. I do get from the church's perspective the not blasting, because I do understand with blasting could cause some structural damage to a church like that we wouldn't want to see happen, right? So I appreciate that there is, a comment that hopefully the end date is soon. My question again too is around the vegetation and the trees. We have had, maybe not all of us around the table, but a lot, when you guys kind of came in and just kind of clear-cutted that area at first, it felt like it was just all of a sudden gone. And I had a number of calls about trees and vegetation and how the look is going to be. I appreciate the drawings, and I'm hoping you guys are getting as close to being able to have something there that if that works with the patio and, as Madeline pointed out, vegetation that will at least make it sort of look a little more back to Muskoka and a feel of that sort of ability to have vegetation, have some trees, have a nature sort of presence in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not here to sell this. I'm here to tell you, like, I'm as interested in Main Street looking great as you guys are, and in having these buffers. It's unfortunate that these big trees are, like, the trees are growing in the easement, and the sewer line wasn't in the easement. If we didn't have to move the sewer line, we wouldn't have had to get into the trees at all, because our actual dig for the garage doesn't touch the tree roots at all. It's the sewer line, unfortunately, needing to be dealt with. But no, we've got a great landscaper who's been hired for this project, and they do good work. That's why we use them. And so the whole point is to make it look wonderful, and lots of trees and lots of good planting going back in. And so, yeah, that's our intention for sure.
Great. Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Stone. I just want to say thanks for working with everybody in the town and trying to make this look as normal as a part of Huntsville as you can after the construction part. There was one question that was asked about the rooftop patio area. Is that going to remain private? Is that the purpose of that? I just want to confirm that.
Yes, absolutely. That is only for private use. It will never be part of the restaurant or restaurant patrons or anything like that. That is just for the owner in his private use.
Councillor Morrison.
The only question I have, I don't think it's been addressed quite yet, was the one concern about the back building, not the garage, but the actual, I think the stairwell going up, and the agreement that maybe was done originally with Bob Clark. Is that something that's going to be within our parameters, Madeline, on that end?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. So that's a great question. That's something that staff spent a lot of time thinking about. And the purpose was we wanted to know if, we really had any jurisdiction in enforcing that. So we did receive a legal opinion, and I have a little bit of, I don't want to miss anything, so I have some notes written down about it. So essentially it could be looked at as almost, or compared to as almost, a restrictive covenant, where the municipality, like planning and building, we don't we don't have any jurisdiction to enforce it. So essentially it's not applicable law. However, it's something that's, on the deed, so the owners were aware of it when purchasing the property, and it's becomes more of a civil situation. So if someone were to contest it, it would be through their own legal matter, and it wouldn't involve the municipality.
follow-up to that, and I'm excited that this business is coming. I think it's gonna be great. And one thing to remember is it's not a new use. Like, it's been a restaurant for a while. So as far as parking and all those things, it's been done before. We're not making a new restaurant. But so I wonder, is that something that the applicant is concerned about? If we can't address it, right? It's not something that we enforce. So you got a legal opinion. Is it something that could come up through the neighbor to the back? And I guess how would you guys address that, I suppose?
I can try and field that question. So essentially, from our understanding, that language was restrictive in nature to the portion of the property that actually doesn't include the two-story existing building. So it was more for the area that was already the gravel parking lot. And that was added to the property. I believe it was in 2014. I think I had it in my notes. And so essentially it restricted that use to only being for a garage, and it restricted the height to being 8 meters. So, yeah.
All right, I don't see any more questions. There are there is Madeline's amendment for the other two items. If anyone wishes to propose that we add them as an amendment. Councillor Renwick and Mayor Alcock. All right, so I will read the main motion. Moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Morrison. Be it resolved that Planning Council provisionally approve Community Planning Permit Application CPP 05-2024 HTE, the purpose and effect of which to provide relief from subsections 3.2.1 and 3.7.1A of the Community Planning Permit Bylaw 2022-97 as amended. 2, reduce the number of required loading spaces from 1 to 0. All to permit the construction of a 200 square meter addition to the existing legal non-complying building on the lot consisting of a 14 square meter covered stairway addition, a 70 square meter tunnel addition, and a 130 square meter attached garage addition, conditional on parking cash in lieu in the amount of $37,500 being paid to the town of Huntsville. Any affected portions of the town road allowance being stopped up, closed, and conveyed to the owners and merged with the subject property. A license of occupation being obtained from the District of Muskoka for any affected portions of the district road allowance as appropriate. The site plan and elevation drawings being revised to the satisfaction of the town to include a privacy fence on the retaining wall running along the rear property line for safety, privacy, noise mitigation purposes, and a grading plan being submitted to the satisfaction of the town. And further, that upon the conditions of provisional approval being fulfilled in accordance with subsection 1.17 of the Community Planning Permit Bylaw 2022-97 as amended, a Class 3 Community Planning Permit be issued to authorize the above described development conditional on the development being carried out in accordance with the Community Planning Permit, including final plans and drawings prepared to the satisfaction of the town of Huntsville. All exterior lighting being dark sky compliance in accordance with the town of Huntsville Outdoor Lighting Bylaw 2016-3 as amended. Appropriate erosion and sediment control measures being installed prior to commencement of any works and maintained until all disturbed areas have been stabilized, and all disturbed areas being stabilized and restored to existing conditions or better immediately upon completion of the works. That was the original motion. And we have an amendment. Moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Mayor Alcock. Be it resolved that the following conditions be added. The owner entering into a development agreement with the town to be registered on title to the lands, including provision of financial securities to confirm that development will occur in accordance with the community planning permit and the final approval plans and drawings. The applicant addressing building encroachments on town-owned lands to the satisfaction of the town of Huntsville. Comments or questions on the amendment? All in favor? And that's carried. And now all in favor of the main motion as amended? And that's carried. Whew. Took a long way to get there, but we did. All right. Thank you. All right, moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Clark. Be it resolved that confirmation bylaw 2024-14 be received, numbered, and read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 14th day of February 2024. All in favor? And that's carried. And finally, moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Renwick. Be it resolved that we do now hereby adjourn at 2:44 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.